Okay, everyone. The final presentation today is by Terje Strømstad. Terje is a senior manager with 20 years experience from the oil and gas business, but also experience from health sector, public transporting, shipping, bank financing, etc. Terje will give us a quick overview of the business perspective and summary comments from today's presentations from a business perspective. So Terje, I will share my screen with you now. There you go. Yep, got it.
And I was invited to have a chat about the business perspective of digital transformation, which is, in my opinion, is equally important as the technology part. And what's really important from my experience is that, well, whatever we can do with technology, it's important to have in mind that it's actually a transformation of the business model we're aiming at achieving, right? So, I just need my notes on my second screen, just a second here. So, I often get the task of elaborating of the business value of digitalization initiatives, but also in helping customers evaluating good and bad initiatives based on business value. So today I'm going to warn you about the digital unicorns, which is something you believe is something that exists, but maybe it has no sense in or sense of reality. So research shows that 80% of digitalization initiatives fail. And the challenge of that is that often there's a huge belief in new technology, but maybe it's not founded in good business case descriptions. And in the jungle of technology and vendors, it's easy to get lost and forget what makes digitalization initiatives great. So the technology landscape in businesses is really complex, and why Cegal, now Gartner Group has estimated 80% of digitalization fails will project is that we believe it's not due to the lack of technological feature, but it's a fair chance that it's an absence of a good business case. So, you know, the application landscapes are complex. This is just an illustrative model of source applications, and when we start to build digitalization initiatives, we start to add more complexity to the IT operating model. We start to add new flows of information or data. We start to add more metadata, more master data, more business rules are applied. So it's important that when we build digital enablers, we ensure that it actually leads to a pure business performance improvement in some way, or that it also, or in addition to that, we calculate what it will cost through the lifetime of the digital enabler to operate it afterwards, so that the IT manager can sleep fairly calmly at night. Here's a couple of typical challenges. There's a capability that you can automatically scan huge volumes of unstructured data, categorize them, and applying logic and business rules to it. It's exciting, it's possible, but does it lead to any improvements? It might, but it makes no sense if the output of this is not used for work process improvements or data-driven decision making. Another typical capability, the prospect of automating parts of your well planning process, looking to improve the time of planning with a huge percentage might sound like a great business benefit. However, if your company plans one well every two years in different operating environments, and the biggest cost driver is rig rates, it might be a better benefit in optimizing rig contracts, at least first. So it's important to make your digitalization investments count, and The digitalization backyard is full of good intentions and inflated expectations, but failure to demonstrate a positive return on investment is deemed to be a common denominator of most digital runaways, becoming what we refer to a little bit jokingly as digital unicorns. Digitalization projects will in all shapes and forms come with a price tag. To avoid this, focusing on benefits needs to be follow initiatives from cradle to grave. So this is a typical business environment where there's projects being planned, executed, and closed. So early on, it's important to have focus on business value. So during the concept phase, it's important to identify the benefit areas you want to improve on. And that's where you need to talk to the business. What's the changes you want to achieve by a digital enabler? And then you come into a project phase where you go into a planning process, and then it's the project's responsibility to mature this further on, to plan for future business benefits capture. During execution, you can still refine the benefits areas and plan for benefits capture approach in the future. And during closeout, it's important to hand this benefits capture plan over to the business again, because when the project is finished and you start to use the new enabler, that's when you need KPIs to elaborate on the success of the project. So measuring benefits is what the business line is doing afterwards, or maybe with a consultancy's help. So when you start to look for business benefits, I think it's really good to look at the lean waste categories. I'm not going to go through all of them in details, but then lean actually shows 8 deadly wastes in what you call production lines, but whether we like it or not, in operations, we are part of a production line, but we do a lot more abstract work. So looking at these categories might give ideas. This is very dense with text, but you know, products that are half finished that need to be reworked, repaired, or scrapped, that's typical for the first one. Overproduction, if we do too much, if we do too, for instance, the data integration, if we do quality management of data too many times instead of automating it, that might be what we call overproduction. So there's a lot of things we can learn from the 8 waste categories, also when applied to abstract processes. So debottlenecking is what we call it, and it's important to identify potential areas to improve on. There are a lot of different ways to break this down. You can look at the man hours, you can look at the material cost, you can do a time waste analysis where you estimate and evaluate the time spent on different tasks, and you can break it down to what it costs, because every professional worker has an internal cost in a company. So the cost of manual labor is obviously a way to attack one of the deadly wastes. And also you can have a quality improvement benefit as well, which is not necessarily very measurable, but high data quality tends to lead to better processes down the line. So what you can do is to build insights into material and cost of labor, make an honest ledger of the estimated cost that you will add to future budgets, both one-time cost and recurring cost. It's important to accrue the estimates across the expected life cycle of your product, normally in the range of 5 to 8 years, because whenever you make a digital enabler, it will have an impact on the IT manager's budget. Estimating the expected savings accrued across life cycle, the same life cycle is critical. Then you can also evaluate qualitative benefits to you know, put an icing on the cake. When you're modeling this, adding uncertainty, currency exposure, and expected inflation, then you have a very solid model. And if somebody attacks the model, please invite them to do so. And I believe the estimate will become even better. Build a solid business case based on numbers or measurable units, and create a plan for measuring monetary effects of the implementation of a digital enabler. Remember also that technology is not alone an enabler, because you need to change the processes, the work processes or workflows afterwards. So a level of training or handover activity, adaptation and adoption is important to focus on as well. So that's also adds to the project cost, but it doesn't necessarily add to recurring cost in the future. So what you can look for is manual repetitive tasks. You can look for incompatible or redundant KPIs. You can look at cumbersome work procedures. If you see an organization has a lot of coordinators, that's maybe pointing to a more basic problem. Even the word coordination is highly suspicious. So it might be necessary sometimes, but yeah, if people run around telling other people that they should do this and that, it's coordination. It doesn't necessarily add value. Bottlenecks in cross-person workflows or cross-department workflows. If you see advanced Excel spreadsheets, it's a huge business risk. The reason is that they usually tend to be very person dependent, and if that person gets either hit by a bus or win $1 trillion in a lottery and decides to move to Bermuda, you have a problem because nobody is there to use and apply its knowledge on that Excel spreadsheet. It's better to have a document and a flow that works under a governance regime in IT. So person dependency, method wars. If you see a lot of manual analysis tasks, maybe some of it can be automated. And also standardization and looking for non-standard solutions or working habits is also something that can be addressed during the building in a business benefit plan. So just to wrap things up, building a business case for digitalization needs a proper cost-benefit analysis. It might sound boring, but it's really helpful when you're going to get commitment from your customer. There also needs to be a willingness to change workflows or work processes following the digitalization implementation, and never forget about the operating costs. What does it cost when the party is over? Because projects are always more fun than operations. So planning for benefits harvest is the responsibility of a project, and grooming the benefits areas and detailing them into a proper benefits capture plan is important. And so following the principle of lean waste categories is a best practice. It doesn't give you all the answers, but it's when you apply those, you kind of cover a lot of bases. And then when the project is finished, start harvesting the benefits and visualize how the changed working habits, the changed workflows or changed work processes have actually improved, and make sure there are KPIs available to show the monetary value of the improvements across time. Very good digitalization projects will always have a positive return on investment. So this is all I had, and yeah, any questions?
Thank you very much, Terje. Can you please mute?
Yep.
It looks like we're coming to an end now, and I really appreciate your time on this. Coming from a scientific point of view, or from a technical point of view, it's always challenging with feedback on what's commercial, not commercial, what makes a good business idea or not. And having these thoughts in mind when we also work is certainly key. I think then finally, I would like to wrap up very quickly. We plan to have a new global webinar in Q3, Q4 this year. We will be very interested in your feedback on the workshop we had today. And if there are some of you 800 plus that would like to present on our next workshop, we will be delighted to have you on board on the matters we have discussed today. Please just send an email to webinar@cegal.com and I will receive that and we will follow up. So eventually, I would like to thank you all for making this such a great event. Lots of interesting questions that we will reply back to afterwards. There will also be a recorded sharing of the whole session out within 24 hours. And please look after one another and ask one more time how you guys are doing around, your friends are doing in these times. We see the light in the tunnel now, and hopefully we can meet and in a session like this, not too far from now. So thank you very much, and all the best to everyone.